Hey guys, so today we're going to be discussing a topic by the New York Post, which supposedly is a conservative leaning newspaper. Now, the thing about most of these news tabloids that I've learned is it's often government propaganda one way or another. It's either left government propaganda or right leaning government propaganda. And in this case, the right is trying to spread something that the left had already failed at spreading. I don't know why they would jump on the ball like this, considering that it kind of shoots themselves in the foot. I don't know. Maybe it also reinforces ideologies. I don't know. I'm not personally siding with the right or the left on this one, or really anyone in particular, mainly because I don't really see myself as a Republican. I don't see myself as a Democrat. I kind of see myself as someone who sees the good in someone or the bad in someone despite what they belong to or their affiliation. You see, whereas most people clamor for loyalty and to be subject into fitting in, I typically try to see things with a light touch of no bias, or at the very least, less bias than most people. Trying to get to the heart or root of any problem requires that you don't do it through a rose-colored lens. And honestly, regardless of where you're getting your news from, it's often going to be through some form of someone else's rose-colored lens. So you have to take these informations and go against these informations with other competitive narratives or other, and see which truths are held to be, standard. This is basically the Carl Sagan baloney meter, but I digress. There's a lot more to it than that, but let's get into the actual article. It says, a new study that finds people who identify as gamers are more likely to exhibit extreme behaviors such as racism and sexism. And while I personally I've experienced this in only two games, but in most of the gaming I play, it's usually sci-fi based gaming. I do a lot of No Man's Sky, I used to do a lot of Elite Dangerous. I've messed with Rebel Galaxy, which is a single-player game. Cyberpunk, dystopias and things like that. And that and crafters tend to be a main go-to for me. I've just recently went into getting into MMOs, which I've found to be quite, just really nice environments as well. I've seen some of the communities do some amazing things. And so yeah, that's pretty cool. But the sad thing is this study takes place in, well, let me guess. It's either going to be COD, GTA, or Battlefield. So let's go into it. While toxicity and radicalization have long been associated with gaming culture, I'm wondering who the fuck got rejected from gaming culture and just straight up kicked out of, and let themselves get kicked out of gaming culture to be this jaded. But let's continue. The study released by last week, Take This, is a non-profit mental health organization. Now, they say non-profit because they usually run on donations. A non-profit doesn't mean it makes no money. That's a false thing. They usually still accept donations, and these donations can come from various lenders, left, right, so on and so on. I don't know what the take is on, like whose take they're on, or the Take This. I don't know. Take This sounds so snarky for a non-profit organization to begin with. It's like, take this or take that. I'm just going to be honest. You're not doing your guys' much justice with the name of your organization, but let's continue. Take This mental health organization working with the gaming industry community. They're not working with the gaming industry community. They're working with a narrative against the gaming industry community. But we'll just, because they're spreading the toxicity that they claim exists within the gaming community. Toxicity that the gaming community has long since tried to abolish. This narrative that we're all grandma's basement dwellers is going to be shown in this article. I can almost guarantee it. But let's continue. Working with the gaming industry and showed just how easily gamer identity can take over a person's life and where that can lead. Okay? Oh, and of course they're going to put this up there. Let's just exit out of that. There we go. Exit out of that for me. All right. Yeah, I don't mess with that. They're not gonna make me special. Take this study, which examined the attitudes of 300 American video gamers. 300 American video gamers? So you guys couldn't even, like, go with the entire community. You had to cherry pick 300 people. And out of that 300 people, you may have found, 10 to 20 people who said something that either you didn't agree with or were slightly derogatory towards race or ethnicity. And you decided that, based upon those 20 people, out of the over 7 million players of video games, this is the biggest franchise, the biggest industry known to man right now. Gaming. I hate to say it, it grew really fast. It became popular really quickly. And without that popularity, things like the Major League Gaming Association and YouTube in general would not nearly be as successful as they are. But I digress. This is an antiquated media of writing that decided to attack a new form of media, just like they all do. But let's see what they say. 300 American video gamers. That sounds so bad. That's so marginal right there. That's so marginal. Looks closely at the pros and cons of life in these communities. Gamer communities represent a double-edged sword. Oh boy, here it comes. The study noted, on one hand, they may provide a sense of connection and purpose for the individuals who suffer from loneliness and insecurity. Yo, I live on my own. I don't live in grandma's basement. I'm not lonely. I have no insecurity. My girlfriend's living upstairs. I have 2 cats. And plenty of people who want to talk to me on a daily. I don't really want to talk to them, but hey, there's a lot of people who do. It has nothing to do with loneliness and insecurity. The reason I play video games is I enjoy video games. I really do. Now, when I was a teenager, I'm not going to lie, when I was a teenager, it was an escape to an extent, but not nearly as much anymore. I mean, games will make you cry from how beautiful some of the stories are. Okay? They will make you cry from how beautiful some of the art is within them. There's a lot of people who actually see games as a media and an art, much like that of moviegoers and movie critics and news readers and magazine readers. There's just a different type. It's just a different type of media. And a lot of people who consume this media are often under attack. And I'm going to be real with you. If you don't identify as a gamer, I hate to say it, but if you've ever played any video game at all, like you play solitaire, doesn't matter, you're a gamer. You played, have you ever played anything at all? Oh, went to the casino. You enjoyed the slots, did you? You're a gamer, guess what? Those are video game entertainment usually. I haven't seen a manual slot in quite some time. It's usually a digital display at this point. But I digress. I could go on and on and on about the different types and various video game types there are out there, or the tropes that have been made against gamers that this literal study is going to regurgitate. But I digress. We're not all grandma's basement-dwelling nerds. This is a narrative that has been long since abandoned and long since proven proven wrong. But hey, man, what can I say? There's just this one guy who's pissed at the world, decides to write an article. Ugh, tongue-tied. But an article about something because he hates gaming communities. I don't know why. Maybe he was pushed out of one. Maybe he didn't, maybe the study has some truth to it. The problem is it's going to paint an entire community of 7 million people who have played a game at one point or a time. They also try to isolate the gaming communities or people who consider themselves gamers as people who only play first-person shooters, which I believe is just... That's extremely light. That's light touch supremacist right there, honestly. At that point, you're trying to be a moral supremacist. So how about that? Anyway, no, I digress. In worst case scenarios, gamers may be lured into embracing extremist beliefs that lead them into a path of radicalization. Yeah, there's over 1 million different ways that can happen. Gaming's not is maybe one of them, but there's over 1 million ways that can happen. For instance, if I wanted to peddle to create an agenda against a community, I might say write an article in a well-received or slightly large majority. Let's just say I might write an article in a news outlet that has a decent size user base or consumer base. So, that's just one way that I could radicalize people to hate gamers if I wanted them to hate gamers. That's just the idea. It is possible. So, I mean, like I said, radicalization can happen in 1 million different ways. Gaming is not the only way, and that does not label all gamers as toxic. You're throwing 9 million people under the bus, right and left, mind you. There was a huge amount of leftists that play video games. Huge amount of right conservatives that play video games. So you're throwing them both under the bus for some clout. Good to go. Good for you, buddy. Good for you. Not to mention that the study he mentions in this supposed conservative outlet is not only concerning because of the broad stroke paintbrushing that it does against gaming, but it's on a conservative post, and it seems to be an extremist liberal leaning study with an extremist liberal type of group. I mean, dude, take this. It's like what is that? Something you say when you're given a right or a left uppercut? Take this. Yeah, dude, I'm sorry. The very name of the study seems to be agenda-based and aimed to attack. Just going to be real with you. But I digress. Let's keep going. For some, the term applies to those who play who play video games on PC, while others it means people who can play competitive multiplayer games. First off, that's extremely linear thought process. That does not cover what a gamer is. If you've played a video game, you're a gamer. Doesn't matter what type, doesn't matter what platform. You've played a video game, you're a gamer. Congratulations, you threw everyone under the bus. Colwart says, now, I'm gonna be real, whenever they say they try to, whenever they try to filter out specific groups, it means that they themselves do not participate in those. So I guarantee you the person who did the study probably played video games on a phone, so that whole part of that study where it said, for some it applies to video games on PCs, while others it applies to multiplayer competitive games, this person who did this study is a part of neither of those communities. So this is him saying, oh, well, gamers are bad, but not me. I play games on my phone, and they're not competitive, so not me. That's extremely biased. That's extremely agenda-based. That's usually what happens there. Colwart says, the issues begin to rise when the gamer starts to merge with the normal identity with their gamer one, a process called identity fusion. Oh, wow. Okay, so, this is basically people who dress like the game character, basically cosplays and shit like that. This doesn't necessarily mean they're far right leaning. It could mean a million different things. Like, for instance, it could just mean that, the styles they saw in the video game, they adapted to real life to see if they would work. Or that they liked the styles of dress in the video game that they adapted to real life. Now, I actually personally have the suit from GTA that I wear, which is just a white overshirt, or white overcoat, white dress coat, kind of. I want to say jacket, casual jacket, and a white t-shirt and white pants. And that tends to piss so many people off when they see me and I walk down the street dressed in that. Just the mere wearing of that pisses them off. But hey, I digress. We have individual identities, social identities. So I am Rachel, I am a female, I am a gamer, I love The Witcher. These are my social identities. and are separate. So this is a person speaking about multiple identity disorder? Like, dude, you're getting all this. This is all a bunch of, like, none of it makes any sense. It's outright sheer lunacy. Which is ironic considering it's coming from, someone who's supposed to be about mental health. And identity fusion is when the social identity and the individual identity fuses together. What the fuck is an individual identity, dude? Come on, seriously? The study found that players of, here it goes, of Call of Duty were more likely to be racist and misogynistic than those who played Minecraft. Well, duh. One's about creating, one's about destroying. You're not doing much there. You're really not doing much there. But even then, if you said one is about creating, one is about destroying, there's a lot of games where you can have combat in them, and I don't really see any racism going on there. There's a lot of games where I've seen just combat is just a way of surviving. But I digress. This can vary across communities depending on what kind of people that you are spending a lot of your time with. I hate to say this, and I hate to break this to you, but there's not a lot of gamers who have tight-knit communities. I'm not going to lie. There's not a lot of gamers who have tight-knit communities, and a lot of games hardly ever allow for it. To make, like, that long-term friendship on a gaming platform or any kind of gaming community is kind of difficult. Honestly, it's a process I struggled with for years. And it's mainly because, well, the way most games are built is you get put in with a random bunch of players. And those players kind of go into it knowing that the next game they're going to play is going to be with a bunch of random players. And they would rather play with randoms they don't know than to play with someone they do, because the detachment that they would have from the person tends to help them cope with not having to lose a friend in gaming, which often happens, especially if your, friend decides he wants to have other friends and wants to belittle you in the process. So it happens a lot in gaming, and that doesn't mean that it's misogynist or that it's racist. That's just, human behavior. That a lot of these studies don't even account for human factors, but I digress. Cohort also advised not to read too heavily into the study. Now that's a good. Finally, something we can agree on. So yeah, let's just go ahead and make that one really well known, even though that's at the bottom of the study, so they know you're not going to get to that far. Most people don't read a full article anyway. I think that gamers have wonderful things, wonderful places that are more that have more positive things to offer than negative things across the board, she said. Well, finally, after you spend like the entire article damning them and attacking them, you decide to try to say, "Oh, but I'm speaking in nonsense." At the very fucking end of the article, she tells people outright that this is a bunch of nonsense. It's hyperbole. Don't take it too seriously. This reads like a fucking satire. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to call it quits. I find it really irritating that the gaming community literally gets attacked so often. And I'm going to be honest, it is honestly because the government blames us for not having a workforce. But the truth remains that they're not willing to confront the actual cause and effect of not having a decent workforce. And that is the fact that usually when you get into a job, they will hire you for a temporary amount of time. They will kick you the fuck out because that means they don't have to pay benefits. Walmart will hire you and they'll keep you on board until you get so many until you get so many raises. They give you a raise every so many, like every month, I think. And if you've worked there for 9 years, you're at that status where they're going to kick you out with no pension. And the reason they're going to do that is because they're going to have to, they could just hire a person a lot cheaper than you and replace you and probably get the same work ethic and start all over again, rather than keep paying you at that rate that they're currently paying you from all the raises that have added up over time. They can just start over. That's one toxic workforce environment problem that we're dealing with. Anyone who's looked at the Amazon, the way Amazon treats its customers, making its delivery drivers pee in bottles and in the corners, and not giving them enough time for bathroom breaks, also not allowing them the ability to have safety measures in place so that they don't get hurt in the factories. There's just a lot of gross negligence in the workplace over basically power playing within management in order to either harass, bully, or marginalize the workers' human ability. Like, as soon as people start getting treated like humans for working, I think that's when we're going to see more workers. But until then, until companies and corporations and the government start to understand these, rather than attacking the people and calling them lazy or calling them selfish, name calling really gets people to want to work for you. I'm just going to be, degrading them on a constant has worked so far, hasn't it? Anyway, I digress. This is all just a bunch of bullshit they're putting out there to try to encourage people to leave the gaming communities and go to work. That's what this is. It's what it's always been about. Let's just be real. It's a way to herd the sheep. Okay? Anyway, that being said, this is Anexia. I'm out. She already thrown her whole fucking study out the window by saying, look, don't take it seriously. So I'm going to say the same. Yeah, don't take this shit seriously. Honestly, when it comes down to it, I've seen so many gamer communities, even within the GTA franchise. The racing community in the GTA franchise has long been my go-to for non-toxic community in the fucking gaming. In out of all the games, I could say, like, the least toxic community I've ever dealt with, racing. The racing community, man, just like, it was all about the cars with them, all about the cars and the good drive, you know. And I've been in racing communities in GTA that were just flawlessly beautiful, and I loved being in them. And the only reason I would leave was to go play a different game with another community that was not toxic. And that's not to say that I would never come back to those communities, because there's some games I'll never really be done with, and I think GTA, in terms of racing, that's one of them. The Crew is a great community to be a part of. No Man's Sky, beautiful community to be a part of. Absolutely wonderful. Honestly, if these types of people ruled the world, we'd have a much better one. Elite Dangerous, community-wise, is a great community. From what I've seen, when they're not, cannibalizing each other because of, simps running rampant with, like, oh, the company can do no wrong. My problem with Elite has always been the company. The community was never really horrible to me. And I love that about the community, but